Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And today I got the biggest, largest medical healthcare fraud case ever. Over $6.5 billion in this case. The 2026 National Healthcare Fraud Takedown. The Justice Department announced charges against more than 450 people across 45 states. Yes, 450 people across 45 states, accusing them of taking part in a healthcare fraud scheme. The alleged fraud involved more than $6.5 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. Of the group, at least 90 doctors and medical professionals are involved and have been allegedly indicted. The scale and the scope of this takedown represents a new era in federal, state, and international cooperation to combat healthcare fraud, with cases spanning 56 federal districts and 45 states and territories, with 50 state Medicaid fraud control units participating. The most in department history. The charges were filed against people charged since June the 8th during a roughly 2-week operation. So the biggest individual scheme, one defendant was apprehended in northern Cyprus in connection with an over $3.7 billion scheme, one of the largest Medicare frauds ever pursued. The FBI announced the return of Ibrahim Hilmi, who is charged with taking part in what they described as a $3.7 billion Medicare fraud operation after a months-long run that ended in Turkey when they were looking for him. And so then there was the wound graft scandal. These people were busy taking advantage. There is so much fraud and theft that is going on nowadays, and Ponzi schemes and shell companies, from the PPP loans during the pandemic to these fraud cases, these healthcare fraud cases, is unbelievable. The FBI is going to be super busy over the next few years. So there's a wound graft scandal, and listen to this story. The charges were filed against 11 defendants, including a company executive and 8 medical professionals across 6 districts, in connection with billions of dollars in fraudulent claims for amniotic wound allografts. From approximately December 2021 through June 2024. Providers billed, listen to this amount, over $4 billion for one company's allografts, resulting in over $2 billion in payments. The fraud was driven not by medical need, but by a kickback scheme. The company acquired allografts from tissue banks and relabeled them for sale at a 2,000% markup, charging up to $1,450 per square centimeter, with illegal kickbacks of approximately 40% paid to marketers and medical providers. Those would be your vendors. In all these fraud cases and these kickbacks, there's always the word or the term vendor involved. A secondary or tertiary source or company that's involved in this. So here is the record Medicaid fraud. The takedown includes the largest number of Medicaid fraud defendants and Medicaid fraud losses charged in department history. 295 defendants and over $518 million in false claims submitted to Medicaid. One example, in the Eastern District of New York, 8 defendants were charged for their role in a $38 million fraud in New York Medicaid for social adult daycare services that were medically unnecessary and were procured by kickbacks to marketers and beneficiaries, and these services were never provided. Despite the facilities having a permitted occupancy of only 30 people, Defendants fraudulently submitted claims for services that were provided to hundreds of beneficiaries per day. So those numbers don't even add up. The facility can only hold about 30 people, and they were submitting claims for hundreds of folks a day. So here we go with the technological footprint. Everything is technologically driven today. You can't get around it. Technology doesn't lie. Technology and asset seizures. Federal authorities utilize advanced artificial intelligence. You know, artificial intelligence is taking over the world. And data analytics to track fraudulent billing patterns in real time, enabling CMS to intercept over $4 billion in bad claims before payments were dispersed. Law enforcement seized more than $182 million in ill-gotten assets, stripping defendants of luxury vehicles, jewelry, and multi-million-dollar real estate, including a $4.6 million beach resort in the Philippines funded by stolen taxpayer dollars. And then what was the international reach? This was not just in the U.S. International cooperation resulted in the apprehension and return to the United States of defendants from Estonia, Kyrenia, and the Philippines. The last being one of the FBI's most wanted fraudsters, Emily Tai. Remember, I did a story on her yesterday, and she absconded from Medicare well over $100 million. What is the broader accountability in this case? Beyond the criminal charges, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services suspended 1,079 providers and revoked billing privileges for 1,403 people, while the DEA pursued 928 administration cases seeking revocation of the authority to prescribe controlled substances since October 2025. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche called it the greatest combined federal and state effort in combating healthcare fraud in U.S. history. What an incredible scenario here. If you follow the numbers and follow the trail of this fraud, we're talking over $6 billion, an historic international healthcare fraud takedown, $6.5 billion in false claims. Where are we going? We are chasing the bag by any immoral, unethical way possible. And many people, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, a healthcare professional, healthcare administrator, some people are not afraid to cross that criminal line and not afraid to go to jail or go to prison, evidently. There's a paper trail, and nowadays the paper trail is a technological footprint trail. And with algorithms and patterns, it's almost impossible to steal today, and artificial intelligence or that computer doesn't red flag it and catch up with you. This computer, this artificial intelligence and this computer technology today works way faster and is way smarter than human beings. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth.